Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my shop. Welcome to my channel. My name is Keith and I'm your host. Before we get started, class, how about the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Today we're going to change up a little bit, something I don't think I really have done for my video audience, and that's a small production run. Now we have 24 half-inch rods, and we have to thread both ends for half-inch national course, half-inch 13. And these rods get inserted into a tumbler that's mounted on the front of a cranberry machine and rotates around and beats the berries loose from the vines so they can float on top of the water, and then they get pumped up into the truck or trailer and then hauled off to the manufacturing plant for cranberries. All right, so but our project is go ahead and make up 24 of these rods. Our customer actually gave us this job a little over 2 years ago, and but he wasn't in a hurry for them at that time, so it went about the time period that I was getting ready to move from the other location, which by the way, that property is still available, and you can contact Maureen at, and if you're interested, there's a nice piece of real estate right there. Have your house, your business, all there in one spot. So anyway, we were there and we were moving in here, and I said, hey, take back the sample. So he brought over the sample, but he actually had to assemble the sample in there, and he needs these, and we're going to get these out for him before, in the next couple days, he's going to be picking. All right, so I want to run these, and I don't really want to single point each and every one of these. Not that I haven't done that in the past. In the shipyards, we've done thousands of studs, and all of them being single pointed, anywhere from B16 grade material to Manel bronze, silicon bronze, or even stainless steel. This is 12L15, so it's a leaded stock. It should thread fairly easy. I'm going to get in here and we're going to change out this 3-jaw to the collet closure because I have that attachment for it, and it's a nice way to hold rod, especially when you're threading, because you can get down to that snout instead of a big chuck, and a flip of the lever instead of a crank of the T-handle. All right, now I'm not going to single point these, or at least I hope we're going to be able to run this G2 head that Stan Zinkosky gave us back at the Bar Z Bash. I think he gave it to me 2 years ago, and since then I picked up several different dies, and also Stan was able to give me several different dies for it as well. But I do have a set of half-inch 13 dies, so these are 7/16 20 in here now, so we're going to be changing these out. But I need to set this head up into the lathe so that I can comfortably use this head to thread those rods. First thing, I'm going to get the collet set up ready, and I'm just breaking loose the D style spindle I got here. There we go. I want to make a rack for those chucks here shortly. Get them off the floor. All right, the first piece that goes in here is the collet holder on this end. We put it in there like that, and the next will be the drawbar, which gets inserted on the back side. and we have to push over our roller stand here out of the way. Okay, did you catch that? The first thing you got to do is you got to put in your locking cog for the back side. Now you can insert the drawbar. All right. All right. Now we can put in our collet. We're going to be running a 1/2 inch collet in here to run our materials. But I think we need to set up our head. And I think that bore is the same size as this head, and this would be really handy to have and be able to run the carriage in and out and keep this in control with the carriage. That's what I'm going to shoot for. So let's go ahead and pull this out of here. Okay, and this bar is 1 inch bar, I think. Okay, 1 inch bar. So I'm going to put a 1 inch collet in here, because I'm going to use the collet and a piece of stock to align the bore for this head to be perfectly in line with the spindle. And then we'll use our readout and be able to maintain that 0. It'll be locked down as far as the height's going, but we want to know in and out just to make sure in case anything gets bumped while we're doing this whole process. And then we'll be able to control this thing dead nuts. Okay, I got a piece of H1 tool steel. It was pretty good. I polished it up with some paper, massaged this end here so that I had a pretty good fit in there. I didn't want it to bind up. I wanted to feel the freeness of it because I'm going to be spinning the spindle and making sure that I have the feel by hand of alignment. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, and I believe, yeah, we got it set here. I'm going to leave that sitting out. All right, it's not wobbling around. Okay, now I don't really like my compound. If I'm going to rely on the readout for in and out, I want to eliminate any other chance for changes. Even though the readout's saying I'm on the spot, a compound can go in and out as well. So I'm going to twist the compound in line with the bed of the lathe. As well as the scribe lines actually tell me 0 is. That's going to be close enough for me. Now we only have 2 other adjustments, and that is in and out and up and down. All right, so we're going to do a preliminary of straight alignment, bringing this face of the tool block parallel. So the block now should be square with the part and the run of the axis. So now all we have is a height issue and our final on in and out. All right. By visual, it looks like we're a little high, so I'm just going to loosen this up a little bit so I know that this will float free like this. All right, and then we can travel in and out a little bit. All right, we tighten that up a little bit. All right, now let's go ahead and get our big sharp'em. I mean, we're pretty close, but we want to finalize knowing that we're on center. And we're going to put sharp'em on the outside of this, let it dry, and then we're going to slide this on, and we're going to look where the interference is, and we're going to tell whether we want to go up or down or in and out. Okay. There we go. Do some quick dry. Okay, we're just going to go straight in and then back off. I see a little bit of rubbing on the front there, a little bit on this side here, not so much on that side. And let me get my mirror so I can look underneath there. Hey, that was convenient. I found my mirror and I also found my light. Yeah, it does look like it's rubbing just a little bit on the bottom. I'm going to roll this over by hand here, 180. And no, I think it's just a little bit on the side. It needs to come out just a skosh. So figure 2000s. All right. The readout is so sensitive that it was noticing a little bit of push back and forth, and right now it's not pushing at all on there. And I like that height, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock the height down right now too as well. We could put a spindle rod in here and an indicator and sweep that hole, but we don't. We'd have indicator sag of some kind, and I trust my feel and the dicum that I'm reading on there, and a little bit of readout fluctuation there. I'm going to trust my feel more than I am an indicator sweeping on that. All right, now let's go ahead and pull out our 1 inch, and we're going to put a 1/2 inch in there, and we're going to start setting up the head. There we go. Okay, we're set, ready to grab the rod, and we'll check our fit on our first one here. Of course, 2 foot, I can touch that on the back of the lathe. So we'll be checking on how we're going to want to insert these in. Whether we're going to go ahead and go in and out on all the way. It's almost the length of our tube, so it's going to be pretty hard to do that. I don't know if we're going to have to go all the way back or... Okay, we'll cross that when we get ready to change out our first one. But we do note that that is going to be an issue. The length of our part and the length of the draw tube. Okay, we like that tension right there. We're going to set a distance that we're going to come out here. We're threading 3 1/4, so just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and set 4 inches on here, and we're going to use that as a setup length for our rod. Now let's put our head in and locate it where it's going to be best to operate it. Okay, that's going in far enough to catch both of these clamps on this holder here. Primarily, most of it is in the front one. This rear one here is just creating a little bit of friction. Alright, we kind of played around with this a little bit ago and figured this head out. We've never played with one of these before, and up until this time right now, we don't know if this is going to actually do the job well or if we're going to be happy with it, but let's give it an attempt. And so we figured that this was to set it, that was to release it after the cut. This, you pull it and bring it back to here, then you could change out your dies. So we got that part kind of figured out, and these are numbered, so they go in a certain order, and there's a little detent in there, and then it's back in there. When it's engaged, this is the stop for depth of cut or diameter of cut, and then you can lock this screw down, and then it'll be repeating. So it'll be bring it back, bring it in, thread to the depth you want, release it, back it off, and test it, and then advance this if need be. So that's kind of the progression. Up here on the top is a vernier type marking here, minus and plus on the amount of depth. So you can kind of keep track of where you're at very, very easily and see that motion when it's engaged. Okay, so we need to change those dies out. So we pop out this set, and we looked at his face earlier, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. They're numbered as this would be the leading, and we're doing right hand threads. Okay, leading 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and the sets of these dies, let me turn them around here. Each die is marked a little bit different, but they're all pretty basic. 1/2 inch right down the middle, and then it gives you the threads, the 13. There's E1, E2, E3, E4. Okay, 1 is you want to put into one spot. And 2 in the 2 spot. Three. And 4. That was a good catch. You got to jiggle them around a little bit because there's a scroll in there, and you got to time that scroll. They're hanging loose with a little ball detent on the back side. The ball detent rod is in the same position as that groove right there. It kind of basically holds it there, but they have to line up exactly right. And the weight of these are hanging down, and these are hanging out, hanging out off those ball detents. So manipulating them a little bit with your finger brings them into that position. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and set this to a regular thread, and we're gonna grab one of our good quality grade 8 bolts. I put it in there, and of course it's loose, so we know that we need to bring it in and tighten it up a little bit. So we crank in until the dies come in, the slop starts reducing, and the bolt starts holding up. And this is only a preliminary fit up here. This is not gauging exactly where these things need to be. It looks like a really good spot for us to start. And I'm actually bottomed out on this stop here. I think we're going to let it go like that. It's going to be a good starting spot. Hey, let's see what this thing's going to do. All right. I think my oil can, I like it over here. And I think that's close enough speed. I kind of measured in 1/4 inch to our die, and this line here is 3.5. Our threads want to be 3 1/4, and I should be able to kick this thing out before it gets to the spindle itself and releases the threads. And in reality, with it being released, this should go over there without scratching. It does. All right, you lock it in, release. Lock it in. All right, we just want to know that that release is going to release that at that moment there. Otherwise, we're going to be scrambling for the off. And I don't know what's going to be the best cutting oil. And these dies are used, so we don't know anything about those. So let's go for it. All right, it actually, if I stop the motion, it stops the thread cutting. And so I wasn't keeping up with it with the carriage. Okay, so everything has got to glide with the threads. Are those the right size threads? Let's see what our nut does. That nut goes on there. Pretty good. Okay. Can we engage on those threads and keep going? As long as we keep the carriage going, in theory, right? So we don't have to worry about popping it. All we got to do is stop our carriage at where we want the end of the threads, and then we should be done. All right, let's see how it goes. And right there. and that should be 3 1/4 inch of threads. 3 1/4 inch of threads. Okay. Let's see if we can't get no difference on the tension. Let's just see if and we're going to have to clean those out a little bit. I don't really see any more chips coming out. But hey, it may have, may not have, and also too, we might have had a piece of debris in there as well. Check out our nut fit again, because it did thread on there pretty fast and easy the first time, and that could have been very much what it was just a piece of junk in there. Awesome. Thank you, Stan. Just that one thread was worth all the setup here. I'd still be single pointing that thread, I think, or pretty darn close to being done. But I'd have to center drill and run the center in. Let's endo this thing, and like I was saying, pushing this back and getting it is I don't think is going to be the answer. But if we bring this all the way through this way, turn it around and run our rod back in here, we can do it that way. All right, and we learned that instead of marking that at 3 1/4, and we could have marked this before it went in here all the way. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll mark them before we get them in there. All right, 3 1/2. 3 1/2 is a good visual, and about a 1/2 inch out from the end, and just so we can make sure we see that line, we should be good. Engage it. I think we're going to put a tray down here to catch our oil, because recycling the oil is actually something I want to do, because this oil can be reused a lot. If I could, I'd probably run oil right in there as a fluid, meaning constant flow. This time we're going to hit it with our air, just to make sure that we have all the debris removed, and our test nut right here. And we got something in there. Let's see. Huh? Let's see. Maybe running it twice maybe will make the difference. All right, 23 more rods to go. Well, I'm coming down to the last 3 or so rods. You know, by the time you're done with a job, usually you're pretty efficient at it. And the only way that you kind of screw it up is if you get a little cocky. We did find this adjustment we need to make a little tighter. We did a couple tests, and we did have one screw up. And we did strip the front of this thread right here, thinking that we made an adjustment and we could come back in and start again. And of course, it doesn't start at the, you know, I mistimed the threads until I got a certain part, and then it caught up to them. But it ended up being a piece of scrap. So once we got that adjustment done, we have no problem to ease onto it. You know, I don't think setting your thread pitch on the lathe bed and coming in and engage it and coming out and all of that would do any benefit to this at all. I'm just kind of holding the pressure on the carriage to feed it along. Anything happens, any mishaps, I'm actually able to stop it. Pops free. And we already know that we can start it on a thread by just kind of moving and bouncing the carriage back and forth. And we clear out the bore of that piece there, and we're finding that these slide through with no problem. Pretty fast changeover. We're not in a race, but we're really not having to work at it too hard. It's a pretty nice little tool to have. It doesn't take you too long to set it up. Every once in a while I might bump this handle out here or whatever and kind of changes it, so it's easy to, it's nice to have the readout on the lathe to where I can bring it back. beats the heck out of single pointing. These rods just get turned on a drum and they really get beat to crap, and the length of the threads are because they got to slip them in one way and then slip them the other way, and then they adjust them, and they have two locking nuts, so you have a nut on each side, so they're made for freedom of adjustment for installing. Other than that, there's a little covering that goes over the outside, piece of PVC cut to the right length, and that's actually what touches the berries. But these so the quality of threads, fairly easy to meet. I'll definitely be more open to use this threader more often, and also to make up more draw bolts for the mill and setups like that for the longer length studs and the last one. Longer length studs than the kits have for the mill clamps. Last one. I want to thank you again, Stan, for this tool. And, you know, it didn't take me too long to get comfortable with it. And I do have several die sets here now for it. And anybody else that has G2 die sets laying around and they need a home for them, send them on in. I'll put them in the kit here that I'm working on now. Anyhow, I was able to set that up and make a project a little cheaper for the customer because it's a little faster for me, and that's what this was all about. I have 24 studs here, and I just called my customer, and he's going to be happy that he has them on hand now, because you never want to be without these when you're picking berries and you have a issue with hitting something or breaking something. And we had one casualty. Other than that, everything went pretty well. I want to mention here before we close out, and I say good night. Roller kits. I got 12 kits in stock right now. My hats. All my hats are back in stock as of yesterday. And there was one change. I have one Mississippi mud left, and I introduced a new color, and it's called terracotta. All right, and it's a real nice fall color. It's not quite as brown as the Mississippi mud, but I thought it was the closest thing, and I filled the inventory with that. Plenty of stickers. They're all on the website now, and you know, help me out if you want to promote Turn Right Machine Works with Keith Fenner. All right, until the next time, get her done.